am I crazy for picking OU to go to the college football playoff? Because I didn't expect to do that when I started the process of going through my predictions. But when it all landed, I thought, I got a path here for Oklahoma, and I'm picking them to go to the playoff, I guess.
I think after this week one, it definitely looks like Oklahoma could be in position for a spot in the playoffs, and not just for their own performance, but looking around the entire college football landscape. I think the Pac-12, the two biggest names outside of USC were Utah and Oregon. Both lost. Oregon in really surprising fashion. I thought they would at least put up a bigger fight against Georgia. And I know Georgia, defending national champions, but they did lose a lot on the defensive side of the ball. I thought they would at least have to do a little bit of catching up where Oregon could take advantage, given that Dan Lanning was their defensive coordinator or part of the defensive staff last year. Maybe not their sole play caller, but definitely an important part of their success in last year's national championship run. I thought he would at least give him more of a challenge. Utah losing to Florida. Now, I think Florida had a great performance. Anthony Richardson showed that he can be a really good quarterback at the college level. But that, I feel like, made the Pac-12 a lot weaker than people expected, because if those two teams would have won, I think it would have been fair to say, as much as Oklahoma fans may have hated it, if USC would have been able to beat Utah, they would have had just as good of a chance as Oklahoma if they had the same record at the end of the year to make it into the playoffs. Now, the biggest tests are going to be versus, I think Kansas State is going to be a huge test. They have a pretty talented team this year. Deuce Vaughn is always a thorn in Oklahoma's side every time we play him. So if we can stop him, hopefully that goes Oklahoma's way. And then Baylor, I think it'd be foolish to expect Dave Aranda to not be able to field at least a good defense. I don't know about the same caliber as last year, because, again, he also had a lot of his players leave, but he's a good enough coach that he can retool his team. At least on the defensive side of the ball, I think it's fair to be confident. The question there is the offense. Can they perform? And then Oklahoma State. I mean, Spencer Sanders had a decent game, but their defense did let a lot of points get scored, especially late in the game, where Central Michigan, maybe they didn't have the best of shots to win. But, I'm sure Oklahoma State fans almost had a little bit of deja vu with Central Michigan potentially putting in a last-second upset.
Yeah, and you brought up the Pac-12, and yeah, both their biggest brands, at least the most highly the expectations being the highest of Oregon and Utah, they both ended up losing their games. At least Utah put it up a close fight, but when you look at it, Florida is arguably the third, fourth, or fifth best team in the SEC, and that supposedly Utah was their best team in the Pac-12. USC is going to have to go on the road to Utah. I don't know if they get through that game. I think the Pac-12 kind of just beat each other up, and they each have one or two losses by the end of the year. Obviously, two of the top three already have one loss. So I don't think the Pac-12 will be in the playoffs. You look at the ACC. You've got Clemson right now. There's some question marks around that offense. The defense is stout. I'm not questioning that at all. That defensive line is probably the best defensive line in the country. But you've got question marks at the quarterback position. And you look at their schedule. I mean, NC State, they came out and they escaped. But they do have to play Notre Dame. And Notre Dame ended up already losing to Ohio State. So one of those two teams will probably get eliminated. Also, Clemson has to play Miami. Could Miami, play a spoiler in the late season game? I don't know. And so the ACC and Notre Dame might just beat each other up. And then you look at who's available, who's left. I mean, you've got Alabama, Ohio State, I believe, will run the table in the Big Ten, and it won't be really close. And you look at the other two spots, Oklahoma, this Big 12 is wide open. I'm not saying that Oklahoma's going to be a national champion this season. I picked Ohio State on our channel, but I do think that there is a path. There's a lot of teams that are question marks around Big 12 teams right now. And if Oklahoma can put it together really fast, which I believe they can, they should win the Big 12. And if you go 12-1, I don't see why they wouldn't have a spot, whether it's the third or fourth seed. And then maybe another SEC team, maybe like Georgia, gets in.